I still can't believe what quite just happened. I know, I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned. And it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to the hospital to recover. Alright, I'm sorry. I'm good. Right. 10 years ago now. Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window of the prison governor's office. What? But ever since then, he completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Oh, wow. Nobody knew his secret. Not his family, not even the man himself, but I forced it into the open. Is it wrong of me to do that? Did I overstep the mark? I wonder. I didn't know you tried to commit suicide. Oh, Iris. You were miles away. Anyway, I brewed a fresh pot of soothing tea for you. Oh, thank you. You and Susie have had an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh. Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. You happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back into the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared. Oh. No, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, I must leave. I wanted to pursue the mystery of the Inspector Gregson's death. Well, you know what Hurley's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in the world that should perhaps never be solved. The construction of a solution comes only at the expense of the destruction of someone else. What does that mean? He knows very well that when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open yours too. Your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important for him. That's so true. Well, that's what I like about Hurley, after all. I suppose that's the lot of a great detective in some ways. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Oh, do you have time, Iris? Yes, I've finished this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline. I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. You know, I always hide Hurley's violin in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you. Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation. So how'd it go in court this morning? Well, we still don't know the truth about what really happened. One thing's increasingly clear. Lord Van Zykes definitely didn't do it. Oh, goody. Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts as well. Oh, really? And there was another development too. Cosmo. Yes, it's quite clear now. Now, Cosmo-sama is not himself. Yo, happy Christmas Eve, Brody. Hope you're doing well, man. Happy Christmas Eve. I know, I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound to the way he was chasing down Mr. Vigil's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder? I really need to sit down with Cosmo. Try to understand what he's going through. Gregson really was murdered the day before his body was discovered. And Lord Van Sykes has to be innocent, you see. Merry Christmas Eve, Goo. Merry Christmas Eve, Razzie. I hope you're doing well, man. Well, that should be easy enough to work out just by examining the corpses, surely. Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report. That is curious. There are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Sykes, though, aren't there? Do you mean... I mean, what was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place? According to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he? It turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office. Well, that sounds like it has all the markings of a wonderfully devilish plot. But then, what was that notice board in there covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with a link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this. Oh dear. That sounds more like something horribly devilish. Let's start by looking into Inspector Gregson's movements of late. Got home from visiting family. How are you? I'm good, man. I got home from work not too long ago. Now I'm just chilling, bro. Same old, same old. Never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements. Well, according to the entry in his diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death. Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Hurley? Well, Mr. Schultz was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be to investigating. So I'll give it a hypothesis before I stop writing. Go ahead. Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil in possession of Gregson's identification. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi. Oh my! Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Gregson need an alibi? It appeared that the inspector had something to do that he wished to keep secret. I don't believe it. I always thought he was just a harmless lover of fish and chips. Perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar. I think perhaps we should try and move away from food analogies. Anyway, if Lord Van Sykes felt the need to investigate Gregson, yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows. Vigil, you say? Is that the name of the lady who came to visit Hurley yesterday? That's right. To ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her find her missing husband. Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us. Actually, did you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to the hospital? Do you know which one? Ah! It's St. Sinners. I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down. Well, that's amazing, Bruno. You found the lady's husband already. Well, I suppose I have, by accident. And 10 years ago, while Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration. No. So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Sometimes I really don't want to grow up. There's more. For 10 years after that, while he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be his stand-in to impersonate the inspector. To impersonate Gregson, but why? I have absolutely no idea. Ginny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Excuse me. Including you, Runo. I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you? Back to St. Sinners, then. Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows. Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today. If anyone has to hide my special Wilson shooting iron, we'll soon set them straight. That water pistol? It's stuffed full of piping hot, extra special blend of mine. I'm quite sure it'll be very effective. I'd better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still. Let's go and see what we can find out. Yes. The Iris is coming too, W. Gregson, the professor, Lord Van Zykes, was investigating him because he has some kind of lead. Why do I think that? Because one, Gregson respects him, so he can try to kill the rest of the people that he can't punish. Two, remember the professor got caught because of something he found during autopsy. I know it's not perfect, but it has some holes, but it's there. Fuck it. We ball, bro. Fuck it, we ball. Because then, now who killed Gregson? That was the real question. Lord Van Zykes is reading. Look. He doesn't seem like he wants visitors, does he? But you must have noticed that we're here, surely? He's trying to ignore us. What do you Nepons want? There's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it? Bitch. Perhaps not. I apologize. So, what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo? Lord Van Zykes, speaking earnestly. Oh, the fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow. Does feel very, very strange. I must say, I was impressed. Happy Christmas Eve, Foolius. Thank you, Jojo. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas Eve. Thank you. For people that don't know, Jojo here gifted me Judgment on PC. So now I have Judgment on PC. So I'll probably end up just trying to 100% it on here. How you feeling? You still got a hangover? Oh, well, thank you. Not by you, by your fellow Nepons, your prosecutor friend. Oh, I see. Yes. It's sardonic, don't you think? Yeah, play that shit. I will. I'll play it. I have beaten it before, but it was on PlayStation. But now I got it on PC. For a man such as me, so loathing the Nepons, to be entirely at the mercy of the two of you. I suppose. It's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years. Played the part? You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper. Because it helped reduce the amount of serious crimes that took place in London. If keeping quiet and playing the part benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything? But the henchman of a criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. That was just the most recent of many attempts of your life, wasn't it? Someone's clearly profiting from your silence about all this. Someone is using you. Believe me, ever since the Reapers first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose them. Or rather, expose the organization. Ah, it's a whole organization? It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case. Which can only mean And someone at Scotland Yard is involved. Someone at... You get me. It's taken me many years, but I've finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias Gregson. So you were close, Jiro. He's not the professor, but he plays a part with the Reaper. Surprisingly, I am not hungover, but holy fuck, I was drunk as shit yesterday. Yeah, you couldn't even text straight. Gregson? The Reaper? At least you're not hungover though. Because that's awful. So, the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you identified to expose him as a Reaper? Intended? As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. The highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there's no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization. I don't believe it. Are you saying that Gregson, that he was behind all those awful crimes meeting there? Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself. Oh. He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassinations. Gift and subs, Jojo? Thank you. Giving them the Alibium. Appreciate the gifted sub, Jojo. Thank you. Oh, no more spending money. Damn it. I said professor, but I wanted to say Reaper on my hypothesis. Got it. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Mary Chrysler and bone apple teeth. Thank you. You as well. Are you doing anything for Christmas, Jojo, or? Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper. But the room he runs on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. President would have met the assassin there for briefings. So we don't actually know who carried out the killings then. Actually, I do have a name. You what? Well, if you can name the man, you have the true identity of the Reaper already then. Or if I can name the woman. Woman. We know? Oh. She's a young woman by the name of Asa Shin. Wasn't she on the paper at the end? I'm just spending time with my family. My mother is making a proposal. Nice. How about you? Same. Spending family time tomorrow. Shin. Oh! Oh, it's her! Miss Asa Shin, the true name of a terrifying killer I don't know only too well. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then just when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan conviction. Yeah, she was the student that died. The mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey? Why was she in Japan? Was she trying to kill someone else? Or she was just there to murder him? Mr. Naruhodo, this perhaps isn't the place to discuss. No, of course not. You can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson, because Iris doesn't know it, and it's very likely that the man was her father. Asa Shin. I should let father know at once. Yes, I agree. Okay. Cosma, isn't he? Cosma Asogi. You say he's a friend of yours? My best friend. It's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merit. I have nothing but respect for him. Yes, I understand. That only the very best students are selected for such opportunities. I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father, Genshin Asogi, the professor. It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man's pawns in politics and economics and war. Anyways, Asogi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves. Ah, I see. Well, that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zyx was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damn Nippons have to go and take my brother's life? In spite of having once saved mine. He saved your life? How'd that happen? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike had sent a wave of panic through the capital. So Clint Van Zyx had already been killed at this point then. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea of the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us. We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scars. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I've been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Zyx, alright. We've got him. I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me. But just when I thought my time had come, if I let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me. It was Asogi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. The next thing I knew, there was a silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. Two days later, they arrested him. So I'm gonna guess the professor isn't Asogi. But we're gonna figure that out. On suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever. The professor. How awful for you. All at once, I lost a brother I revered and the foreign friend I held in such high regard. I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zyx. That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone. Well, thank you for confiding in me. The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are. I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper. Giving assassination orders to Jazeel Brett? Mr. Naruhodo, let's go and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie? Hooray! Yes, alright. Let's head back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then. Thought it was yesterday, and I think it again today. This place is so princely. It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'll think the same tomorrow, too. My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving in the tea room here, though, wouldn't you say? Oh, look what we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure. Ah, Father. Oh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely. What a charming young lady. And you are? Ah, really? So you're the author of The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, are you? That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know? Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly and with much interest. Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father. Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explain that bright look in your eyes. You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is, believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery after I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Although I'm fairly sure you omitted by Cosma on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. Really? He didn't miss a step against Asogi. We all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary. It's very kind of you to say so. Really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I had been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday, Naruhodo. I trust you haven't forgotten? Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you? But first, we have something to report, Father. Susato, hold on, I want to hear this, damn! Of course. Shall we take tea while we discuss the matters further? God damn it, Susato! Wonder what Judge Shikoku has got to. Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey? I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after that case when the visiting students had already returned home. Lord Van Zykes, who was in the dock today. That was Barrock, the younger brother of Clint Van Zykes, I believe. That's right. He's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard. The truth is, it wasn't him behind all of those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else. I see. So what you're saying is, there's been a professional killer at work here? Exactly. Someone by the name of Asha Shin, in fact. I beg your pardon? Did you say Asa Shin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend? Oh no, a friend of yours was killed? Uh-oh. Professor Mikotoba, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor is talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. And that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway. I've just remembered something. Biscuits! This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits. That was rather out of the blue. She's doing this deliberately. I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come too, Iris? Oh, yes! Just trying to leave me behind. So that young girl. It's called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all the adventure stories starring the great Detective Sholmes. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father? Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to the Imperial Yume University 4 years ago. But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about the case. But it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So it could have been another Dr. Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes. We're back! With cinnamon biscuits. Oh, they smell delicious, Iris. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here. Don't you, Susie? Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris. Susie? I haven't seen Judge Jigoku for a while. Have you? No, now you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either. I suppose since the symposium's opening was postponed, he'll have gone to explore at the great exhibition. That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Jigoku having once been in the dock himself? Yes, it was all tied up with that accursed trial. Close trial of Kazuma's father. Soshiro's trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and actually managed to break the witness stand. Oh my. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire for which he was charged. Oh dear. Although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. Thank goodness. Ah yes, talking to Sashira. I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday. Please. Oh, what a lovely picture. Certainly seems to shout we arrived here in Britain. Oh. Why is this going into the evidence? None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we? No, that's so true. What's this doing in the files, bro? So you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it will be over before long. And when it is, I'd like to ask you to accompany me back to Japan. You want me to do what? Father? What's the meaning of this? Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our court works firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense. Oh, you mean Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer as soon as possible, really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I've read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs. So, you'd be leaving then, Runo? But then, what am I supposed to do, Father? You came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant. Oh yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how to best deal with his situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susato, and I trust your judgment in this matter also. Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest, but I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it and come to a decision by this time this trial concludes. Yes. All right. You won't leave, will you, Runo? The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Cosmo's will. But it turns out that he's still alive. So, where does that leave me? Well, if you'll excuse me now, I need to telegram government ministers in the Japanese police with this information about Asa Shin. Of course, Father. Thank you. I look forward to the next month's installment, Miss Wilson. Oh, good, and please do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We'd love to entertain you. I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruhodo. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home. You know, Kazuma-sama has always meant a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this. Yes, no doubt. Asa Shin. Of course, it's so obvious. How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Mr. Shobes. Hurley, where have you been? Why, I joined you off for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question. I didn't notice you at all. No matter, no matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Japan, you mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who? Ah, well... My father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself. I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. I don't think what father's sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes. There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trusty, unshaven father to see this is sent. I will, but what is it? No questions at this time, if you please, Miss Susato. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is Ari. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, true, Mr. Sholmes? Now then, you may be surprised to learn that I am a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind seats and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant. I'll leave the sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Sholmes. Read it. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace. I left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. I must catch up with father at the telegraph office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab straight away. And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Sholmes' bill. Oh, this fucking place. I bet this is the same one, bro. Ward 3. This is the war where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Ah, the lawyer. Hello again. Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil? Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. I didn't expose your secret and force you to remember things you'd obviously try to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh, Kazuma beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this up upon myself. Please, don't think like that. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well. You mean about your dismissal? Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just deserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but it wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true. Oh, Mr. Vigil. I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but... Oh, excuse me, if possible, can you tell us exactly what really happened? I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done. I like his theme. Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper's marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that would take his identification and impersonate him. You'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf? Oh no, never! A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here. So that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident. Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters. Yes. So you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud? That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. That's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though. And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. It was midnight on June 17th, 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. Make my bald head blush, you bitch. Your bald head blush? Can heads even blush, bro? But the professor's execution never actually took place, did it? Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of that place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins in which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed. Correct? Mm-hmm. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery, just behind the prison. Chief Warder first had to sign the necessary papers. After that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When execution took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I would wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had the confirmation, I went into the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork, have you check the coffin, then nail it shut. But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery. Presumably, there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long. So in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to get Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened at Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder? I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are two things. I'm trying to make time go faster since it's Christmas Eve. How do you survive an execution? It doesn't actually take place. They faked it. Hi, Bendy. How you doing, man? Yo, Bendy, guess what? Bendy! Guess what? Ew. What? Look what JoJo, aka Spidey, gave me on PC. How do you fake an execution? I don't know. We don't know how they did it, but they did it. Oh. Let's go! Asogi couldn't have possibly escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. We're finding the mole again, Bandy. And that somebody was not me. Obviously, you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, I called for its execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in processes of signing an important treaty. That meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. They had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in the cells until his final hours. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intelligent intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day. Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you responsible? I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. I did my placements on games on Overwatch, still Diamond 5. You're in Diamond, Bendy? God, Bendy's so good at Overwatch, bro. Good job, Bendy. Overwatch, I remember that. I'm booty. Nah, you're goated, Bendy. What the heck? That night when he was brought back to his cell, I bet Demonic's bronze. I saw something. Something unusual. Should I get Overwatch 2 or not? I mean, it's free. You could try it. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells, and when I looked into Asogi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back. But why did you find that so unusual? Is it normal for a man to pen a will that when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true. But there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy. But at the same point, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final day shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable. What was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed? That's the point. He was permitted to have writing materials. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper. So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what happened to him? Yes. That's the long and short of it. I have no idea where you obtained that paper. I went 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Feels bad, man. Hey, Diamond 5, that's still a W. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he had the paper behind his back, and then he pleaded with me. What do you just hide behind your back? Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. Alright then. But what's on that paper? The last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd see nothing, let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace. What? What do you mean, vanished? Should I get Overwatch 2 or not? I mean, bro, it's free. Just download it, try it. If you like it, play it. If you don't, you don't. I'm gonna play some more Yakuza 0. Do it! Where you at, Bendy? The Will's disappearance. It's free, motherfucker. Bro, Overwatch 2 is in a paywall. No, it's not. It's a literal free game. Just download it. The only thing paywall in that game is cosmetics. Overwatch 2? Yes. They have a battle pass. They have a shop for skins. Literally, the only thing that you have to buy in that, the only thing you can buy in that game is skins. The Will's disappearance. I was the only person who saw Asogi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Asogi's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warders gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. It's a poor Kazuma-sama. You're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? The will, I mean. That's right. Though I didn't search through that myself. But Governor Kane was livid. He was screaming, "I cannot have disappeared completely. It cannot have disappeared completely." That Doesn't quite make sense, though, does it? In what way? Well, we understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it? Oh yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew. But it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was the Asogi Papers. The Asogi Papers? I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal, and the way you blocked it all from your memory. I've forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. Yeah, you do. Yeah, if you didn't have Overwatch 1, yeah, you have to unlock some of the characters. You don't gotta pay for it, you just gotta play the game. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... No, not at all. Thank you again. But what will become of you now? Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. You'll come back. Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? Uh-oh. What is this? The Asogi Papers. I'd be very grateful if you make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason? It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder. Perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document that Cosmo's father left behind, it would be Mr. Vigil's governor. And we know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison. Oh, back again, are you? Yes. Hello. I've heard all about your investigations. I read the report just now. You found him, eh? Vigil. Yes, luckily. Well, anywho. Glady doesn't work here no more, so your case is not to do with Barclay. I wouldn't like you to get the wrong idea about that. Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the chop. Hi, Kimmer. Can very well, so how about a wee handcuff biscuit? Oh, they really are little handcuffs. And as hard as irons, too. So what's brought you doing here today? God, I hate the way he talks. Well, there's something else we'd like to ask you about, Ashley. Is that so? We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asogi's cell. I think it's been called the Asogi Papers or something. Did I know say Grex's death is not to do with that might have happened at Barclay? Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not food her about with irrelevant details. His expressions changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. That murderer's botched execution and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, a shocking embarrassment. Because the convict had a collaborator on the prison staff, you mean? Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Scythe. And my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair. Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it. The rascal wouldn't say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs? Oh, how could I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet. Mr. Vigil was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened. He was so despairing he jumped out of your office window, didn't he? I don't like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. Do you not think he would have just jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed, eh? I do. Or maybe he was trying to kill himself? You wouldn't say otherwise, though, would you? Of course! I had not shun all responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anyone that kens what went on at the time now. Gregson had been murdered, and Dr. Scythe forbidding from anyone having visitors. No visitors? Someone honestly doesn't want her giving anything away. Well, we're not going home empty-handed. I wouldn't dream of sending you packing without Kimmer. Here, take a handcuff or two. Oh! Well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to be an anemic. We got to work finally? W. Tony. Good job, man. Good job, man. It'd be that last from the forensic division, Maria Gorey. Maria Gorey? Aye, Scythe's daughter. She didn't have no more. Just the one. Oh, this was the crazy bitch, bro. But the wee brains followed in her mam's footsteps. You never have seen her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah! It was this crazy bitch. It was her. Dr. Scythe's daughter, Maria Gorey. We could do with talking to her. Bendy, just look it up, man. So she's Dr. Scythe's daughter, but her surname is Gorey? Aye. There's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't know the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her ma'am working with the bodies of the folk who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I cannot understand myself. I cannot insert it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right. And the coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her ma'am's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. Ew. So she's fucking crazy. Well, then perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago. Aye, I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Gorey herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. You know, just stay away, no? Leave me alone and don't come back here, eh? Liar. I'm not leaving, bruh. How'd you come to know about that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in the prison who've heard of those papers. Ah, well, I can't tell Mr. Vigil told me. Oh, well, LaBelle, there we go. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament, is that right? The professors? Or rather, Getcha to Sogi's? Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? But then after the convict's execution, it mysteriously vanished from his cell, didn't it? Havers, no, you're off at half cocked there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wee look around here. I'm sure I can find it. Cock. Hey, here you are, see? Last will and testament of Genshin Asogi, written with a calligraphy brush. Of course, I cannot read a word of those Japanese squiggles. By mine, it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland. Yeah, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asogi papers? Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asogi. No doubt about it. There's no mystery here, Lottie. That's your lot. Alright, so these aren't the papers then. After all, a Stramish, the slicer of an execution. We sent the man's possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it. I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case. One thing before you go on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Hold on, before you do that, bro, let me look at these papers. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son Kazuma Asogi in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. So that means Kazuma has something. Oh, yes? Those papers are not to do with Gregson's death. I prefer if you didn't make no mention of them outside this office, or rather, I wouldn't just prefer to consider an order from the highest level of our government. I understand. Sight, bitch. Think I'm gonna listen to you? No arguments, Prosecutor Asogi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear? Oh, as you instructed? What's going on here, Lord Chief Justice, you bitch? Perfectly. It's Cosmo-sama. Defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down. Hey. On your way now, Asogi. My lord. Kazuma. Oh. Nothing without saying a word. Yes? What are you doing here? Oh, well, I just hoping to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. I want Van Zyk's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asogi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary. Unwelcome inquiries? As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42. 43. We must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo. In a miraculous not even 5 minutes? Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Professor Asogi believe that Lord Van Zyx is the Reaper? I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago. In that fateful closed trial that Lord Van Zyx made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress. But that's awful. The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days. Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at his place at work, I believe. Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey. Did people believe Lord Van Zyx was responsible? He brought the trial himself, but it wasn't shown to have been an accident. So he must have had a solid alibi then. Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences. Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial. The impact that revelation would have on British public cannot be understood. Cannot be understated. Is that why? Excuse me. Is that why it's a closed trial? Precisely. The country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years. So the last one was the professors. The trial of Genshida Sogi? Correct. Actually, we heard that originally. You were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart. Van Zykes entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With the son of the man Van Zykes had condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way. They do say that what goes around comes around. However, it would seem the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well. Cosmo is? I like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others. Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here. If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I'll be forced to take steps. What? What do you mean? Not something with which you need to concern yourself. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours. Oh my, that is a long time. I hold you entirely responsible. Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes? I wonder if you might agree. To us, talking with Prosecutor Osogi? Discussions between the defense and the prosecution outside the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I'll make an exception in this case. Now go. You can find him in his office. Oh, thank you. Let's go see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo. Cosmo's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Osogi now, is it? Cosmo-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor, Japanese style, in that dark corner. It's his habit to sit Saiza style whenever he's working. Cosmo. Hey, man. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed in that you'd fulfill your dreams of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom so gallantly realizing your dream, Cosmo-sama, I'm truly happy for you. And I'm truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Mikutoba. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisioned it. But I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Susato's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jikoku. And about what happened with your father. And you'll have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice. Why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear from you, Cosmo. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. It's getting on for a year from now. This is what happened on the SS Bure. We were heading across the ocean from Japan to Great Britain. when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes. I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain, your tasks await you there. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, must have been. Presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily, though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose? That's right. On the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. It must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I had moved to heaven and earth to get here at that point. So how'd you end up becoming Lord Van Zyke's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with an intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Drebber. Fucking love Drebber, bro. Yes, I did. I love this song. It's such a good version of this song. Ever since I met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. My last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. But yeah, I mean, I don't wake up early for Christmas anymore because I live alone, so. I go to my aunt's house for Christmas since my family's down in Florida. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san. Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yume. I'll forever be in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There's no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. When I read in that letter, it changed my entire life. What'd it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asogi name. Oh no. Oh no. As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Presumably, the letter that was sent from a relative, relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it couldn't have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor in his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling my father was taken ill by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him. He'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Chikoku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily, before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. Truth about my father, Genshin Asogi. I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Lord Van Zykes isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the inspector? Yes, Balrog Van Zykes is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, people who condemn people, the law is just a tool that they use. Oh shit. When a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper. This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was reported on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too. So I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Gory. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard Autopsy Laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery? By Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? prison where my father was incarcerated. It robbed of his life. Why is Michael Jackson? No, it's Miracle Johnson, Bendy. Jeez. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Ryunosuke, I want to thank you. For what for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan. Well, it's a famous story that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Kuruma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Kuruma, is the symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really? Kuruma. Does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Sussy Super Toy, what the fuck's that even mean, bro? Now I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Cosma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke. I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zeiss given what happened. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. The man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow. By whatever means necessary. Can't let you do that, Cosma. I know you'll do what you have to do as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Till tomorrow, then, in the Old Bailey. Oh, I don't like this. This place really is creepy, isn't it? Gorilla just took a stray. Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air. Well, being a dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris? Think we could change the subject? Oh, get that away from me. What? What was that? She's gonna scalp us, bruh. Oh, she's not gonna scalp us. Ah, Dr. Gory? I surrender! What? That noise before. Sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them. Right. But following the collagen fibers in the dermis and a really sharp scalpels cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration? Oh, yes, please. I'd love to see. Then, I think you'll do nicely. Huh? No. No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. Is that a toot? Well, came here to ask questions, so... Time of death. We haven't actually met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember. Yeah, she doesn't like us. You're not dead yet. What? So Mamba said I wasn't to cut you open, so she's so strict about things like that. Well, good. Dr. Scythe has some scruples, at least. Oh, dear. Looks like she's not interested in talking to us, for the time being, anyway. Time being? I mean, until we die? I hope it's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. Dr. Gory, we actually came here to ask you about this. He was very good. Good? Sorry? His skin didn't snag my blade once. A very little mess. His joints dislocate easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with. Why is she talking about Gregson like this? I'm gonna cry. I need her to stop talking about fucking Gregson like this, because I'm gonna cry. You skip those details. But there is one thing about the report that's caught my attention. You don't seem to have recorded a time of death. Oh, that's not my fault. Oh, that made me jump. Then please, tell us what happened. She's not bad looking, I guess. She got big ass eyes. Big ass eyes. Say she ugly. So why doesn't this autopsy report include the victim's time of death then? Just say she ugly. You say she's ugly. She's okay. She's got big ass eyes. It's really the most crucial detail. I was told not to write it. What? By whom? Mail Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here. Lord Strongheart came? He said that from the witness's stand about the gunshot and the other evidence. It was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on 1st November when the gunshot was heard. Well, that's not the time of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything. Was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gory, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later, you're going to go to the same way as your mother. Oh! Give it here, then. Oh, wow. He really said that to her. She's scribbling so furiously. There. You've written... What? What's she written? Tell us. Indeterminate. But... according to the coroner, Dr. Gory, an accurate estimation of the time of death is not possible. Not possible? What do you mean by that? Why was the time of death indeterminate? When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh. So the time of death could easily have coincided with when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy. What discrepancy? There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. And that fish had started to rot. What? If the victim liked fried fish, you presumably like to eat it before it went off. Well, yes. What are you really trying to say? It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death. Manipulate? Is that even possible to do? Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. Bajiro gets Gina. You can have her. And if the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time, then the only fish would have started to rot. With today's science, it's not yet possible to determine if the body was chilled or not. Today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator. I don't imagine many households in London have it equipped with such a device. No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory? Or some other special place? I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street, though. I wonder if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow. What might the actual time of death have been? I couldn't say for sure. At the most, might have been a day earlier. No. In other words, it will corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Naruhodo. That Inspector Gracie was killed the day before his body was discovered, at a different location. Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility? He simply said that there were no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity. Oh yes, one other thing. It's something the governor of Barclay Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Scythe, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution. The professor? Apparently, you always enjoyed listening to your mother's stories about her work, so we were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago. That's not all Mama did. Sorry? Hey, yo, let me set up. Carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zykes as well. What? Really? The brother of Lord Van Zykes, the professor's final victim. The idea of carrying out an autopsy on a member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then. But the detective in charge of the investigation insisted it was miraculously authorized. Detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. So she also did the autopsy of... So something went wrong with Clint's then, too. Is Dr. Scythe on here? No, Dr. Scythe is not on here. Quite an accomplishment for one man. That autopsy provided the vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historical event. What does all this mean? You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The professor and Clint Van Zykes. They both spent their final moments before their burial on the section table there. So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events. She really is proud of her mother. I wonder if you tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gory. The professor's execution was Mama's first big case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay's prison execution chamber and signed this certificate to confirm the convict's death. Mama's the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her. But the execution didn't actually take place. No. And worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak. I didn't want to know. Oh dear. You found out recently, you mean? I believed in her and Mama, but now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her. You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? Well, that's because Lord Stronghart forbade you from including it. Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too. Yes, that's my feeling as well. There's no doubt that there were powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well. The big man with the little handcuffs? According to what he told us, he was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Liar. Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing. Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? You mentioned the autopsy of Clint Van Zykes. It's at the time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual. It's still not a practice that observed in our country even now. It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as a secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. That's right, my daddy. And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. He was a visiting student from the Far East. Wait, a visiting student? Must have been my father, Eugene Mikutoba. I had no idea Professor Mikutoba had been involved in something so important. But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor. So that's how it came to identify Genshin Asogi as an infamous mass murderer. Do you happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more? Would you like to see the records for yourself? What? Would that be all right? What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're filed under V at the back of those cupboards, with the other records from the last decade. Thank you. She's so good. What the heck? W. Gory. We like this lady. What the fuck? She's so easygoing. She don't give a fuck. Let's see. Van Zykes. Van Zykes. That's strange. What, Mr. Naruhodo? They aren't here. There's nothing under Van Zykes. There must be. Perhaps somebody took them away? No one's allowed to take documents related to the professor's case out of this room. But you're right. They're gone. Well, when was the last time somebody looked at them? Do you remember? It was... Oh, yes. I remember now. It was 2 years ago. Consulting detective came one day saying that he'd like to see the records. No. You don't mean... Herlock Sholmes was his name. Sholmes! Sholmes! That's it. Come on. Come on. We're running over to Sholmes. Come on, fellas, move out. Move out. Hey, Joel. Reg, me. We gotta go. Deep down, I knew that was coming. Do you think he stole the records? Oh no, surely not. Iris, that can't be right. Can it? Iris? Oh. Get him! Chase him down! Get back here, Sholmes, you bitch! Move it! Alright, I'm done. Move it! Runa? What are you? We're running, Lumi, run! I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris? I just remembered something very important I have to do. Iris, where are you going? I'm gonna have to leave you now. Oh! This is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then. Oh, no. There's no need. You and Runa can take your time here. Bye for now, then. Good luck. Iris, where are you going? We gotta chase down Iris. Beep. Wait a minute, little girl. Me? I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you? Oh, wait, Iris? Have you, Iris? Yes, 2 years ago, when that detective came. You were with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too. That's the way it usually works, yes. Was I? I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash. Wait, Iris. I'll brew up a puff for you when you get home. What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either. It's been quite a while since I had any visitors. This was really fun. But next time you come, I'd prefer if you were ready for dissection. I can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zyk's autopsy have disappeared. But I think we've asked all we came to ask now. The police are still busily investigating in here. But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Yes, it has been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Perhaps she's out investigating on her own, practicing with what her boss taught her. Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait? Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there? Could always use some time to investigate more thoroughly. Is it this light? This is this light? The photograph of Mrs. Vigil. Realizing the identity of this lady was a very great clue to exposing Mr. Gossip's true identity. Oh, Newt the toilet. Yes, I did. He obviously loves his wife very dearly. Which is why he felt like he couldn't tell the truth. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it? Good thing you didn't see what I said. Coming with you, legend. Oh, good. Have fun smelling that shit, Dino. Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. There are some initials on the outside. Look, T.G. Tobias Gregson. Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here. Sniffer, hey! Nah, you bugging, Dino. Oi! What do you think you're doing? Hi, Gina. That's my trunk, that is. And hands off. Gina? Where were you hiding? I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds, every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got his greedy eyes on it. It's just a wild guess, Gina, but what? Spit it out, Odo. Is it fair to say that you've only owned that truck since this morning's trial? What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this truck's gone with me everywhere, as always. Always has. Where you been the last year? Trying not to incur your wrath, man, mainly. Can't stand hearing the motherfucking name. Cool. XDDing. You should hear them talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers. You mean the whole Reaper thing? Yeah. Apparently the boss was investigating some stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals but got off scot-free. Yes, the ones that prosecuted by Lord Van Sykes who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction. And then obviously it was that bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, weren't it? A lot of people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings. There was a notebook hidden in his office. Oh no, this doesn't sound good. It had details about all the crimes that have been pegged as the Reaper's work. What? Oh, did you see it, Gina? Did you see that notebook? It wouldn't flame and let me, because I'm just an apprentice apparently. But it was me who found it, and he was my boss. That's right. I was pretty miffed about it, so I sneaked a peek at what it said anyway. Oh, that's our Gina. Who does wannabe Naoto? Wannabe Naoto is crazy, Dino. This is Gina. Thief gone detective, bro. So you managed to see what was written in Gregory's notebook. The way I see it, it's my right to read what he wrote. What he had written, Gina? Dates, times, places, names. A long list of them. All details of the bludgers supposed to have been done in by the Reaper. But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps there was a record of the inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly. That's what I said. That's the first thing you'd think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognized anyway. Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of London's criminal underworld. Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end that was a bit odd. At the end of the list, you mean? I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st of October. Oh, the day before the inspector was found dead. So, what was the odd name? It weren't like a name I've seen before. It was something like, nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, put it that way. Oh dear, what a pity. There's something else too, I don't know if it matters. But the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin, it was. Doesn't suppose it means anything, but... Did you say Shin? Eh? What? It does mean something? Lord Van Sykes knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we found out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina? Well, of course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating in that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened. The day before? That'd be the undercover investigation of the Red-Headed League then. Only the boss didn't go, did he? You found some cover while you was pretending to be him, didn't you, Odo? Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day posing as Gregson. Well, anyway, you weren't the only one turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results. Oh, when me and my partner here get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Toby! Little Toby! Such a faithful friend. So, have you tracked anything down then? What do you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't you tell, though? Police business, isn't it? Ugh. Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the Hellhound here. Right. Because he looks so, so hellish honest. Gina? About your Hellhound there. Oh. Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's the pride of the force, he is. In Japanese, police dog means something quite different. Not altogether nice to those involved in crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least. It should be, after all. In the great exhibition case the other day, it was Toby who here managed to locate Drebber's workshop. Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh? Do we have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of? I wonder. His watch!
Take that!
Of course. He might be a little too keen, don't you think? Oh! Oh! She knocked out Gina, the Chief Inspector. Made short work of Gina there. Oof. Ah, look what he's gone to. Oh my. That trunk clearly still has a very strong scent of Inspector Gregson. In other words, it must belong to him. Oh, all right. It's a fair cop, I suppose. And you nearly got away with it, too. He always talks so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he may identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, weren't it? That's enough now then, Gina. Eh? I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk. Like that, it just weren't. What are you talking about? I know what's going on through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened. Alright then. What did happen? Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby here have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. And as soon as I'd done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to that sandwich. To a sandwich? Not a bag of chips? Mr. Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness. Oh, I forgot about that sandwich. You mean when they heard the sound like a gunshot and piled in there? Exactly. He nabbed it from the scene. Goodness. I mean, the Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what he said? I thought it might fetch a good price, and the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... Well, that's all I did, nothing more, nothing less. Would you Adam and Eve the check of it, eh? Stealing the dead boss's stuff to flog. Still, Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime, then. How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. It's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured I might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well, maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. Open it. Open it! Oh! I think that trap should be turned over to the police, don't you? What are you on about? I am the police. Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it? Yeah, all right then. Do what you want with it. Thank you. Thank you. We shall make a detailed record of our examination of the evidence. All right, we're opening it. Open it. Open it. Open it. Open the trunk. Open it! Wannabe Naoto was pretty, not gonna lie. Yeah, she was a thief. In the first game, she was a thief. Now she's gone detective. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think? Yes, I'm afraid though. I think it's blood. Ugh, I knew you were going to say that. So that presumably means that this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes. I think Gina's been carrying this around with her. If you didn't know any better, I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all that fish and chips. It looks like it was covered up. Look! There's something inside. Oh, let's see. It appears to be a passport, authorizing him to travel overseas. Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then? Perhaps the date departure might tell us something. That was... Oh! What is it? It was for travel on 31st of October, just one day before the incident. What? Really? Travel to France. Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered? Have you seen this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the leather and into the metal behind. Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged. Whoever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force. I wonder how it happened. I don't like where this is going, bro. Yeesh. I don't like where this is going. Permission due for applicant. And then one additional person. He was going to take Gina. What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden? Mr. Naruto, be careful! Must be the trunk. Oh! Toby, oi! What are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off! Mr. Naruto! Mr. Naruto! Gina, quickly! Hail a carriage! Oh, wow. Oh, Mr. Naruto, are you alright? Mr. Sato? Ah! Conscious again at last. A blessed relief, my dear fellow. After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier. Most unseemly. What? What is or isn't seemly is relevant here, Mr. Sholmes. Blush. I'm so glad there's no lasting damage. How are you feeling? I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? Ah, what's this on my head? A bandage? Sadly, we had no ice. So lots of compressive sugar water. Sugar water? Don't worry, Mr. Naruto. It's a first aid treatment that my father taught me. Oh, thank you. So let's take tea when you're feeling up to it. But of course, no sugar in the patient's cup. Ugh, the bump in my head is throbbing sweetly enough, don't worry. Whenever you feel ready, then. Look at Sholmes back there. We got a lot to talk with Sholmes about. You son of a bitch, Sholmes. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say I was quite startled when I heard that you'd been attacked by a dog. For a moment, I feared that infamous murderer of many had come back from the dead. You mean the professor? Fortunately, I seen your prized throat is unscathed. That sniff, turned-up collar of yours obviously affords some welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I remember is the dog licking my face over and over and over again. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in future, a little mustard spread on the cheeks should do the trick. Fuck you, Sholmes. I don't like the way you're looking at me. You don't like Sholmes, bro? I love Sholmes. I should think that would balance the sweetness of your bandage rather splendidly. That scared the fuck out of me, bro. What the fuck? What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream? Ah, no. It's an old German folk song. Rather a fine rendition, I think. That's the least of my concerns. Iris? Iris? What's the matter? Who is that sprawling, that relaxed gentleman over there? Oh. No way. Iris? Is she even listening? Is that Miko Toba? Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing merely, but would you be kind enough to explain the situation? Is he dead? Oh my god. Is he dead? Well, that worked. Recruiting gentleman and a mute young girl. A rather tantalizing juxtaposition. And one that appears to have incited the gods of deduction with me to find their voices, too. Ah, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Okay, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's just... Okay, I think he's just knocked out from the tee. Whew! One melody sings a reunion full of nostalgia. Whilst the other... It's a more steam about the great secret you're trying to so desperately conceal, Iris. She's turned as white as a sheet. So, as usual, you've instantly seen to the very heart of the matter. And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel sure this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Musicland, where all is sweetness, indelicacy, and harmony. Pray, do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular. The game is afoot. Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of English language. It's Miko Toba. As evidenced by that Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when he's asked to desist. So, why is the man here at all, and in such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright young eyes to unravel that particular part of the mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. You obviously offered our German guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirits soar. It resulted in this joyful ditty tumbling incessantly from his lips. Incessantly. I eagerly await sampling the flavor myself, that I may join the fellow in his state of elation. Now, to the next question. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself thoroughly of the seat? As it happened, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived at my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gostrich Sigismund von Ormstein, the King of Germany. If my memory serves, the mask worn by the gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. The mask belongs to the King of Germany. It appears Majesty remembers the fine services I afforded him, and has decided to show his face again, masked and all, in order to express his gratitude. A well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? So the identity of this masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the Great Exhibition. Oh, you're way off there, buddy. That's Miko Toba. Girls' silence. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. £5 note, I believe. I must say, as your compatriot, I'm deeply saddened. It would appear that you've allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness, earning yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the king's secret. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. What is a secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah, yes, we need only follow that brief involuntary twitch of your eyes to find the answer. You're attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup. It appears that His High-Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of his high jinks. Which leads us to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cups have been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you try to conceal it from me. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this painful puzzle. God, I don't like that at all. This is kind of scary, man. With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial warbling rather rings in the ears, does it not? Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me. Pray, Mr. Sato, do tell. His Royal Highness doesn't appear to have moved a muscle since we arrived. Ah. And you haven't said a word either, Iris. Is he actually dead? Is that Mikotoba dead? Oh my god, oh my god. Mr. Sholmes has it all right, you might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning isn't entirely without substance, I must admit. Or he drank Iris's blend and passed out. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Yet another grievance, Mr. Naruhodo? Certainly not. Well, I actually read the story of that case recently, the one you were just describing. According to that, at least, it wasn't the King of Germany. It was the King of Bohemia. Goodness, was it? Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified to that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite a scandal. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that it's our turn to now make some corrections. Right, let's do it. Although it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. We need to find the truth behind this mysterious scene. But one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. So, shall we embark again? On a joint presentation of Herlock Sholmes' logic and reasoning spectacular? Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Alright. Boom. There we go. So what? It's some mix of herbs that give you the urge to sing? Goodness. I should like to try some. I like to hear you singing, but this man... Just how long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose? As I said, he's been stock still the entire time, and if you look closely, his lips aren't moving either. Ah, so I'm not sure what's actually responsible for the spirited singing. But I suspect the answer lies at the end of Iris's gaze. Cup's empty for sure. I suppose this mysterious gentleman must have drunk the contents. Iris' special blends are quite delicious, I agree. They always make my heart sing. So I can understand wanting to vocalize those feelings, certainly. In fact, Mr. Harlow, you often erupt in boisterous laughter after drinking Iris' tea. I do? Maybe you should take some lighter laugh lessons from Susato in the near future. We know this mask. Oh, you're right. So, does that mean... Surely not, it couldn't be. Could it? No. It's most definitely not him. Oh no, of course it's not, thank goodness. But then, why is this gentleman now wearing it? I'm afraid once again, I really have no idea. Wait, this is a gramophone, still rarely seen in our own country. The sound certainly appears to be coming from the horn. But the machine's singing. That can't be right. Sounds and technology are changing the world rapidly, Mr. Naruhodo. What's right is changing too. Ugh, it's too much for my brain. Well, at least we found our answer.
Take that!
The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the gramophone. Indeed, for no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song when making a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all. In fact, it would appear that the fellow is unconscious. Ah, the music seems to have stopped now. Thank God. I ask you, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? Well, never mind. On with the deduction. Although we've already established that it was actually the king of Bohemia, it seems Mr. Sholmes intended to persist with his Germany theory for some reason. Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he? Master Gotz? The boy whom you had in tears? Don't remind me, or anyone else. Do you suppose all members of the aristocracy of the mainland Europe wear masks? I'm sure they do. Well, probably, anyway. The point is, that mask doesn't belong to any king. No, that's right. That's we well know. Because we gotta identify the true owner of this mask.
Take that!
Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to Kazuma Asoki. In other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you can try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask has been languishing on this metal chest for several days. Though that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now. But it is now a simple matter to determine our guest's true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious. We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask and peer beneath it. I don't believe it. Father! I'm afraid Mr. Sato... Oh, no, I think not, Mr. Sholmes. Then it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. This mysterious visitor is my unconscious father, Eugene Mikutoba. Logic and reasoning? Or just looking and saying? So that's a 5-pound note poking out from Iris's knapsack, is it? Oh dear, I can't be sure. I know, I'm not even sure if we've even seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we? But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence. He certainly seems like the silent type himself, though, judging by his present state. Imagine a game like this, but Twitter. But Twitter? No, thank you. Perhaps what Iris is trying so hard not to give away with her eyes. It's something entirely different. What's Iris really looking at? It's a metal chest. It contains important documents, doesn't it? Yes, details of all the cases Mr. Sholmes has worked on over the years. Written up by Iris's father, if I remember correctly. Iris insists that the chest kept it locked at all times. She never... Oh! It's unlocked. Iris?
Take that!
Iris, what are we doing? I think it'd be hilarious. Fucking Twitter. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside the metal chest. An excellent observation, for upon closer inspection, there is something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now, the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. But it's a simple enough matter to incite you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need to open this chest. Here we go. Harley, don't. Oh! 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 Mr. Yo, bro. Bro got knocked out. He's dead. Never. Oh, Hurley. I told you not to open it. Ah, so you found your voice now, Iris. Ah. In other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes. The real reason for your silence until now is... This is somewhat different than the usual dance and deduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it? Well, he's left me alone on the ballroom floor, so I'm going to have to dance this next part solo. And anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so... If you don't actually know the answer yet, despite that knowing point of the finger before? Mr. Sato, sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later. Oh, well, if you say so. I think we'd better examine Iris more closely and try to rescue the situation then. A key!
Take that!
What a nerd. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is that key behind your back. When Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before... Just before you called that to try to stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hand, no doubt. The key to the chest. You're so clever, Runo. So now it becomes clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can well imagine what happened here. But Professor Mikotoba also opened that metal chest, only to be punched into the air. And land sprawled on the seat. But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf and the cup of tea, and above all, why would he be wearing Cosmo-sama's mask? Well, for those curious details, I can think of only one explanation. Clearly, an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. When Professor Mikotoba opened the chest completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flung into the air just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when it fell back down. And the teacup's journey through the air ended up on calling the unconscious professor's finger. You mean to say that the stylish scarf is actually just a tablecloth? This is the great detective's office, after all, a place of miraculous deductions. Hey, W. Susato. Would you expect anything less? Yes, you're right. It happened exactly as you said. Brilliant, Runa. Thus concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction of this punchy puzzle. W. I love those, bro. I love those. So then, why don't I make a fresh pot of tea for us all? Oh shit! An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show there, you rather missed everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes? If you would cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. Iris, clearly you're hiding a great secret. Ah, she is She is? Look at her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. Whatever that great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So I should put it to you again. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. Really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup. Must have been smashed when Professor Mikotoba opened the chest. Oh dear, so many things seem to have been broken here. But now that deduction has taken a different direction. Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore. In other words, her gray secret is something else. Let's put our observation skills to work here one final time. Surely this time, at last, the knapsack's going to be the answer. I'm really not sure why you're so intent on showing Iris' bag to the complicit in this event. Oh, under her hand? Oh!
Take that!
You were attempting to abscond with that case file. Iris, as you know very well, nothing escapes the attention of a great detective. Oh no. We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today. And Dr. Gorey informed us that the autopsy report of Clint Van Zykes had gone missing. Clint Van Zykes? Yes, I do seem to recall. Some years ago, I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? This song is going in, bruh. You mean it was you, Iris? So those papers you have there are... I'm sorry. Aww. I had to leave after Gorgy. What did I miss? Or Gory? So you saw Iris. So we pretty much we confirmed that Iris is the one that took Van Zykes' medical files. Or the autopsy report. Oh, what happened after Gory, bruh? Where did we go? Shit. What are you hiding, Iris? Where did we fucking go? We went back to see Gina. We got this trunk that Gregson had during his death. There's blood right here, and there's this gash mark right here. He had a passport to go to France on the day before he died. Or the day before the incident, I should say. You saw the Asogi papers. And, Toby, Gina's dog, like, jumped us, and we went unconscious. For some reason. In truth, I would like to have thought I could predicted the booby-trapped chest. But it caught me completely off guard. I was very nearly the late consulting detective, Herlock Sholmes. Ugh, I'm sorry, Hurley. So you mean this autopsy report really is? Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I knew it was very important. Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris? Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I'd been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it, I knew it was Daddy's. The writing? Your father's writing? What do you really mean? Iris? It must be something that's hard for her to talk about. Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it? I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the sea has been somewhat forgotten. Ah, father! Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Mr. Naruhodo, yes? Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? You must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll be happy to carry him up. So will I. No. I can manage alone, thank you. You have two to enjoy. We wouldn't want Iris's Brutus stew. Because there's no better way to make the professor comfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I wonder. Perhaps that was deliberate. Maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris the chance to talk more freely. You must use this opportunity to talk with Iris. But ask, why is he there? We have no idea why he's there. So pretty much, we don't know what the hell's going on right now because we literally were unconscious for a while. And we woke up to that. Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father? I'm sure I told you before, didn't I? That Daddy used to be Hurley's partner. Yes, and that notes about all the cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest. That's right. Hurley told me, you see. He said that Daddy's somewhere far away now, so he can't meet. That's one way of describing it. Then, when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build up a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like. Well, that's only natural. You're just like any other girl of your age. I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, so I studied and took my degree too. Well, that's only natural, I suppose. In that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though. But there was one thing that I could never find out. Daddy's name. Ah, his name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he made about his work with Hurley. But then one day, I knew she was guilty. Hey, leave her alone, Dino. That's what happened, is it? You saw this autopsy report? You finally managed to work it out. Is that right? Yes. So it was the handwriting in the report that caught her eye. When I saw the writing on that report, I could hardly believe it. I know that handwriting, I thought to myself. Because it was the same writing as the one you'd see on your father's case notes? Exactly. I was desperate to compare the two properly. I needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor in the laboratory, but I was told I couldn't take the report away. And even worse, I was told that was the first and last time we'd be allowed to even look at it there. So you decided to steal it? When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's. The signature of the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report read Dr. John H. Wilson. So that's how I finally found out. I learned Daddy's name at last. I see. Ever since then, I've called myself Iris Wilson. And that's also when I had the brilliant idea of writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times with Hurley. I decided there, and then I'd write The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you. I can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. This is really all my fault. Hurley? I made a promise, you see. That until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret. I know. I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gorey and apologize, I promise. Yes, we'll go together, I think. Can we see him real quick? Then let me look after it for you until we get there. Nice! Clint Van Zykes, male, British. Time of death, 31st of May, between 9 p.m. and midnight. Death from a single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial external wounds indicative of a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little ring fingers on the right hand, but no document in corresponding ink was found. Autopsy findings. Vital evidence recorded from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. No internal trauma noted anywhere in the body. I must go and water my herbs, I think. I'll see you all later. Poor Iris. She must be feeling awful. I know Mr. Sholmes is here for her. Still. What? How? What's the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes? Mr. Sholmes? Oh, dear me. So, you've noticed, I see. But that would mean... What on earth's the matter, Mr. Sato? You've turned white as a sheet. It's this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo. The one from 10 years ago. The writing. Isn't Dr. Wilson at all. Huh? What do you mean? How could you possibly know that? Because I know this writing very well. This writing it's my father's. Oh, Professor Mikotoba's. Indeed, it's true. And now you know, my dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all this mean, Mr. Sholmes? Because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind, it's just too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. No dog bite? Yeah, I don't see a dog bite. So, this autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikotoba then? But that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely? Not possible? My dear fellow, pray, take a deep breath and think again. Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense. It does? 10 years ago is when Father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain. And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikotoba engaged? Ah, of course. He was an assistant in Dr. Wilson's laboratory learning about forensic science. And as assistant, he would have aided with the dissection work, making detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put his signature on the document. In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end. I see. So Iris got the wrong end of the stick, you mean? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. John H. Wilson. Which is very understandable, of course. What a complicated situation. Thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, comes from the published stories of your exploits. Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris. We really have no way of knowing what's fact and what's fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So what's this about? So what about this supposed partner of yours? Did he really exist or not? Ah, you've come straight to the point, I see. And please come straight to the answer. I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade, and the only person I could truly have called a friend. Did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest? Absolutely, my dear madam. Absolutely. So, where's your partner now? Is it Mikotoba? We rarely meet. You see, he lives on the other side of the world. But the autopsy report and the records of all your old cases were penned by the same hand. And if the autopsy report was written, though not signed, by your famous partner, there would be only one logical conclusion. Pray, impress me. Wow! So what does that make Iris then? It's just... Your partner would have to be Yujin Mikotoba. In other words, Miss Susato's father. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? You are coming along wonderfully. You have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. You mean to say... Allow me to introduce you to my great friend and partner, Mikotoba. Wow! W! Professor Mikotoba? Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson? No, my dear. I'm still my old self, Yujin Mikotoba, your father. Oh, of course. This is obviously too much for Susato to take in. I must say, though, how my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Pray remind me. When was it again, Mikotoba? 16 years ago, Sholmes. Yes, quite. 16 years ago. I just arrived from Japan with Sashiro and Genshin. I was in search of lodging close to the hotel, some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. Rents are devilishly high in that particular area. That's right. So I decided I need someone to share lodgings at the expense. And was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of a great detective you see before you now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for little gain. The situation of our cohabitation led us to pursuing the cases together, you see. Hard to believe. It was a mere 6 years ago we had a great many adventures. But in the last years of Mikotoba's stay in Britain, the most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you've been rather familiar yourselves, the professor killings. After the trial, Sashiro and I were summoned back home. Hardly surprising, given the circumstances. So there you have it. And as you know, all the details recorded by my trusty chronicler remain in that metal chest. This is just amazing. Professor Mikotoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner. Father? Goodness, my dear, what a cutting look! As your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery that I really must ask you to explain now. And that is... You know very well what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris' father. Of course, I almost forgot about that one. I should have seen this coming, I suppose. Are they sisters? That'd be crazy. Iris told us. Now, I'll notice about the great detective adventures that are in the metal chest, were written by her father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes? That is indeed what I told young Iris. But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, father, and you wrote all those case notes, then Iris' father must be you. Upon my word, Mr. Sato. You are coming along wonderfully as well. You, too, have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. What? Well, you've always told me, father, that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago, and you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your study tour in Britain. I've always accepted that, but... all this about Iris. Oh, there it is, Susato's ice-cold stare. No, now hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think. Then perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is. There it is. Now the eyes go from ice cold to red hot. Just before she... No, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Show up, say something, man. That's quite enough, my fiery fellows. Mr. Sholmes? When did he get all dressed up? Boss, I don't like to interrupt the exciting exploration of the past. Mikotoba and I have urgent matter that requires a short excursion. But it's very late, Mr. Shobes. Where must you go? Why, my dear madam, is that not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies. So, get your coat, Mikotoba. The game is afoot! But Shobes, I really must give Susanoo a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage awaits downstairs already. You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really. I visited our home after 10 long years. When I opened that chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably passed out. And as if that wasn't enough, when I eventually regained consciousness, I plunged straight into all this. Father, please. Go with Mr. Sholmes now. What? I've no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interest. I trust you, completely. Susanoo. And sending the great detective and his great partner off on our renowned adventures together. It's more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams. Very well then, we'll speak again later. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Yes, Naruhodo. Good luck in battle. And in reaching a decision. Decision? About whether to go back to Japan, I suppose? Wow.
So much happened that day that I barely knew what to do with myself.
I was just thinking the same thing, bro. What the fuck just happened that day? So much shit just happened.
It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth. And that all the turmoil was necessary to give me the resolve to see everything through.
Let's go! Let's get it, Naruhodo. This song is fire. End? End? What do you mean end? What? Wait. Oh. End? Fuck! The resolve of Ryunosuke. Now, okay, so the final chapter is literally all of that shit. Wow. Okay. I'm not gonna do that now because I know that that's gonna be a lot, bro.